Greetings everyone, I'm Encode2nd, and welcome back to another More Mobs progress update. New world, new version, new me. Although ironically, I'll talk about a mob that was supposed to be shown in this episode before the format was changed. But before I do, let's bring up some vanilla mobs, and discuss mob variants in particular. I imagine some of you have rolled your eyes already, because mob variants aren't generally loved by the Minecraft community to say the least. And now, especially after the poor reception of the Drown during the 1.13 development cycle, Mojang hesitates and even avoids adding new mob variants to the game. Roll the clip.
I think that's a really interesting idea. We try to avoid adding different variations of existing mobs. We want to create unique ones. But I really like the idea of making a mob that is somehow connected to the Soulfire.
I'm not claiming that community reception is the reason that devs avoid variant mobs. Shocker, I don't work for Mojang. But if I had to guess, I'd pick that as the reason. So let's actually try to understand what people dislike about these mobs. I think it's very easy to pinpoint the obvious surface level issues. Mobs like the Husk and Stray are mirror skins of zombies and skeletons. Their drops are mostly the same, they look very similar, and there are only a couple things that differentiate them from their base counterparts. Let's start with the Strays. They spawn in snowy biomes, and they shoot tipped arrows of slowness. Yeah, that's it. The feature is so unoriginal, it feels like its inclusion isn't justified. But alright, maybe that's just the worst example. Let's look at Husks, which are a little bit more interesting. They spawn in deserts, become zombies upon drowning, give hunger, and survive the sunlight. Twice the difference compared to Strays, yet still feel bland and uninspired. Drowned mob has much more going for it compared to these two, but the reception for this mob, as I mentioned, was lukewarm at best. The devs have been promising a new underwater hostile mob, and it was very exciting. Any kind of crazy creature could be added to the oceans, and seeing a new huge monster in Minecraft would have been really cool. But instead we saw a water zombie. At least that's how the majority of the players reacted to the Drowned. Now the actual reason this mob was added might be much more interesting, and I recommend you check out this video by Cam from Minecraft of Normals, which has some good analysis on why it was added. But that doesn't change the fact that the fans were let down by it. Mojang decided to add another undead humanoid instead of a unique new creature. Even if the mob has many purposes in the game, it still feels like a worse version of what it could have been. I do think though, that's mostly due to the fact that players expected something much more original when they heard that a hostile underwater mob was coming, and in my opinion, the Drowned succeeds at what Strays and Husks fail at. If you make a list of everything that makes the Drowned different from zombies, you'd get quite the list. But that method of evaluation doesn't actually explain the reason why this mob works well in the game. So now I will finally show you the two new mobs in the upcoming snapshot of more mobs. At last. Okay, so there are two variant mobs coming in 4A that I want to talk about today. The first one hasn't been revealed yet, but if you've been on my Discord server, you've seen some hints at it. Anyways, here it is. This is the Fume, and just for the sake of it, let's make a list for this one too. So, it's a Blaze variant, however, it spawns in basalt deltas as well as nether fortresses, and its projectiles have a wider range. They still damage you, but won't set you on fire. They also give you blindness. You can't block their projectiles with a shield, but they also can take damage from their own attacks. Pretty decent amount of differences, right? Means good mob. Well, let's turn our attention over to another mob that's being added in 4A. The Hoggus. Hoggai are a peaceful counterpart to Hoglins, can't be bred or scared away, can't be burned, and can't grow up. They also drop shroomlights and scare Hoglins away. Already that's a good list of changes. In reality, this is a pretty arbitrary way of comparing the mobs. The real reason why Strays and Husks aren't anyone's favorite mob is because they don't provide any new experiences. Yes, Husks will give you hunger for a couple seconds, and won't die in the morning, but overall they're essentially the same as a zombie in every way. Now let's briefly touch on another example of something similar. The mobs I will be using aren't technically mob variants, but if you think about it, they definitely are. It's the Pillager and the Vindicator. Here, let me even make a list of differences for the Pillager, since Vindicators were added earlier. They use crossbows instead of axes, and spawn in outposts instead of mansions. That's it. Just 2 items. Well then, if it's on the level with the Stray, it must be pathetic and useless. But it isn't, because both mobs provide entirely different experiences, mainly due to their weapons. But regardless, the Pillagers are not like Husks and Strays at all. So to recap, just adding differences won't make your very mob any better unless it provides the player with an actually new experience. Simple as that. If you really dig deep, the Husk has lots of things that differentiate from the zombie, but alas, it's still just a sand zombie to most casual players. And that concludes this video. I know it really doesn't show much in terms of new changes, but I hope it was at least more informative and interesting than what I did before. This all is new ground for me, so if you have feedback then please feel free to utilize the comment section accordingly. Hope you're excited for the new mobs, because I myself am quite happy with how they turn out and what they bring to the table. Don't forget to smash subscribe, ring my bell, and as always, stay.